Today, a Redditor shares that they think their kid's school lied about calling CPS. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, I, female 22, just found out my fiance, male 22, and I are related. And we don't know what to do. Throwaway because this is a massive secret and we're fully expecting it to blow up in our faces. I never thought I would post here, but the holidays uncovered something huge and my fiance and I genuinely have no idea what to do. I grew up in a fairly large city in the South with just my mom, my younger brother, and me. My dad passed of cancer when I was 4, and my mom supported us by working as an accountant for a mid-sized company. It was always just the big three, as my mom liked to say. I've never known anyone from her side of the family. She's always been extremely private about her upbringing, but as I got older, I picked up bits and pieces. Whenever we saw family, it was always my dad's side. My parents met as adults, but after my dad died, my grandpa really stepped up in my life. He took me to father-daughter dances, came to baptisms and major milestones, and was always present. When I asked about my mom's side of the family, I usually got short answers like, they're bad people, or we live far away for a reason. As far as I know, my mom left home when she was around 17 and never spoke to anyone from her family again. My grandparents on my dad's side never met anyone from her side. Almost 4 years ago, I got into a great university far from home. My grandpa drove me down to campus and helped me move in. During orientation, I met Tom, not his real name. We clicked instantly. Same humor, same values, and a connection I've honestly never felt before. We became best friends very quickly and soon started dating. Tom is also from far away, but our hometowns are extremely far from each other. Over the years, I spent some holidays with his family and he spent some with mine. My mom, my brother, and my grandpa, who passed away around Thanksgiving this year, all adored him and were very vocal about wanting me to marry him. His family accepted me just as warmly. Last year, his parents even gave him a large gift to help pay for an engagement ring. He proposed this past August, right around the anniversary of when we met. We're planning to get married in June, shortly after we graduate. One more piece of context before the actual problem. Tom and I became sexually active about a month ago. We were both virgins when we met and had decided we wanted to wait until marriage. After he proposed, we decided together that we were comfortable taking that step, especially since I'm on birth control and we were already planning a wedding. Our parents assume we're waiting, but no one has ever directly asked. Until now, this has not been a point of stress for us. Here is where everything falls apart. This past Christmas, I stayed with Tom's family. My mom and my paternal grandmother are in the middle of an argument I didn't want to be involved in, and my mom was completely fine with me going elsewhere. While at Tom's family gathering, his mom's parents came over and we all had a big holiday meal, opened gifts, and had a great time. They even gave me several gifts with their last name on them. At some point during the evening, Tom's grandmother made a comment to his mom, who I'll call Melissa. She said, "Melissa, do you remember when you and Rachel got me that planter for Christmas?" I leaned over and quietly asked Tom who Rachel was. He looked confused and said it was his mom's twin sister who disappeared years ago. He had never met her. I immediately felt uneasy. My mother's name is Rachel, although she's gone by her middle name my entire life. I also knew that she had siblings, one sister and one brother. Tom had mentioned an uncle who passed away around 2010. At the time, I convinced myself it was just a strange coincidence. Later that night, people were moving around the house and Tom and I ended up sitting alone together with some wine. I whispered something like, "I didn't know your mom had a twin." I think at that exact moment, it hit both of us. About a year ago, while dating, we had already realized our mothers shared the same birthday. We thought it was funny and even mentioned it casually once to his mom. We both started internally freaking out, but kept it together for the rest of the visit. The next day, I flew home to see my mom. Before I got there, Tom and I came up with a plan. I told my mom that I'd been talking to my gynecologist about some issues with my period and that one of the intake questions asked whether there were twins in my family. I said I didn't know and figured I should ask. For the first time in my life, my mom admitted she was a twin. When I asked why she never told me, she went on a long, drunken rant about how her sister Melissa was a literal demon. My mom is unfortunately drunk most of the time. She also mentioned cutting her family off completely when she was young. What is wild is that my mom and Tom's mom look absolutely nothing alike. One is tall and brunette, the other is short and blonde. At that point, everything clicked. We confirmed last names, which were the same. I also learned my mom's maiden name for the first time in my life, which I know is strange, but she is intensely private. Tom and I are first cousins. We have no idea what to do next. Our parents have never met, but they're supposed to meet at our wedding in 6 months. We've already built a future around each other. Tom has a great job lined up, and I've been accepted as an early decision to my dream law school in the same city. Our relationship is genuinely strong. We're best friends and deeply in love. Ending the relationship feels like throwing away the greatest joy either of us have ever had. Continuing it feels terrifying. There are obvious biological concerns if we ever want children. There's also the very real possibility of being disowned or pressured to split once the truth comes out. We are stuck and completely overwhelmed. What do we do? Edit 1. Thanks for all the kind comments. Tom and I have read through all of them, and we really appreciate the thoughts. We have decided to talk to our parents tonight. We both fly back to college tomorrow, so it's really the last time we can do this before it gets dangerously close to the wedding. I'll give an update on how it goes either tonight or tomorrow at the airport. We plan to tell them what we've learned, but insist it won't affect our plans to marry. Hopefully, if we lead with that, there won't be an effort to break us up. Update: I didn't expect this story to get so much attention, but I appreciate all the kind words and encouragement. I also appreciate everyone who reached out kindly in my DMs. Sorry if I haven't responded yet. As you'll soon read, my life is a little upside down. I wrote the original post in the early afternoon. At the time, my mother was out buying my brother new clothes for his upcoming semester. I decided I would confront her after dinner. Tom and I agreed that I would tell my mom that night, and then we would figure out how to tell his parents. Dinner came, and I wasn't eating. My brother kept asking why, so I eventually gave in and told my mom I had something important I needed to talk to her about privately. She seemed to recognize the seriousness of my tone and told my brother to go to the gas station to buy scratchers. When he left, I told her everything, starting with, "This is really big news, but I want you to know that I intend to continue my relationship with Tom." I told her that I'd been at Tom's house and learned that Tom's mom had an estranged twin, and that I was confident that it was her. I said the full legal names of Tom's mom and his maternal grandparents. I knew I was right by the shade of red my mother turned. She kept saying, "What? And is this a freaking joke?" I even showed her Tom's mom's Facebook. My mother has no social media and never has, as far as I know. At first, my mom went silent while I sobbed. Then she erupted. She told me I needed to leave Tom immediately and never speak to him again. I told her I wasn't going to do that. She started yelling about how Tom's family was spreading lies about her to me. They do not even know. She was being paranoid. I told her I didn't need to tell them anything, that she could keep this secret and simply never meet them. Since his family is paying for the entire wedding, I suggested she not attend so she would never have to interact with them. That suggestion was not taken well. She called me every name in the book: tramp, liar, jerk, runt, etc. She screamed at me until she was blue in the face and told me she would not allow me to return to school for my final semester. Around this time, my brother came home. He's a pretty low-key guy and does not handle conflict well, so he went into the adjacent living room and scrolled on his phone. I told my mom I would marry Tom regardless, and that if she chose not to be a part of my life, that was her decision. She called me ungrateful and continued screaming. Things escalated again when she demanded that I hand over my phone. Long story, I'm actually on Tom's family's plan. She also demanded that I go to my room. I said no, that I'm an adult, and she threw a 3/4 full bottle of Botanist gin at me. It hit my arm and shattered on the floor. That's when my brother stepped in and pulled me out of the house. We could hear her breaking things and swearing as we stood outside. Since my flight is scheduled early in the morning, my brother drove me to his friend's apartment near the airport. He works at the airport and lives about 15 minutes away. I had never met his friend before. My mother texted me multiple times asking where I was and calling me awful names again, but nothing else happened. I'm writing this now from the airport, waiting to board my flight. I have a bruise on my arm, but it's not serious. Tom thinks I should have called the police, but I just could not do that to my mom, even if that ends up being the last time I ever speak to her. My brother brought me all of my belongings around 2 a.m. and then took me to a hotel connected to the airport. He's a saint. That's only half the update. After I left the house, during the drive to my brother's friend's place, I called Tom hysterically. He told me he thought he should tell his parents, and I agreed. After we hung up, around 10:30 p.m., Tom pulled his parents aside and told them everything. They had seen pictures of my mother on Instagram before and had not recognized her, but once they looked again, they confirmed it was the Rachel they knew. Melissa cried and cried. Tom's dad, I'll call him Richard, said the situation was very strange. They asked Tom a lot of probing questions, including whether we had been sexual and whether my mother knew. Tom told them everything. They were disappointed in him, but they did not dwell on that. After Tom explained what had happened with my mom earlier that night, Richard and Melissa completely changed their tone. They told him they still supported our marriage, but needed to make a game plan for how to handle this moving forward. They texted me saying incredibly kind things, telling me nothing had changed, that I was still their daughter, and that they loved me. Melissa also shared why my mom became estranged from them. This is only her side, and I may never hear my mom's, but apparently when my mom was in high school, she started to unravel emotionally. She would yell at her mother constantly and accuse her of favoring Melissa. Their father was the coach of the girls' basketball team, which Melissa played on, but my mom did not, and my mom felt rejected by both parents. During their senior year, my mom ran away with an older boy, not my dad. His family knew my grandparents well, so they assumed she was safe, but my mom told them that she would never speak to them again, and she kept her word. The last they heard about her was 3 years later when the boy's parents said they had broken up and she moved to another city. This was the city where she later met my dad. They wrote letters she never answered and eventually respected her wish for no contact. All of this came secondhand from Tom, who heard it from his mom while I was coming down from hysteria in an airport hotel room at dawn. The details may be fuzzy, but that's what I know. How I'm doing, I'm heartbroken and scared. I've only seen my mother be violent once before, when she threw a brick at my brother for sneaking a girl in. I was always the perfect child, and now I cannot imagine her ever speaking to me again. It feels like I chose the people she felt rejected by over her. My heart breaks for my mom, but I love Tom and I do not believe it's fair to either of us to abandon this love. I'm also scared of what she might do next. She went to my grandmother's house and my brother's girlfriend's house trying to find me. My brother refused to tell her where I was. She knows where my apartment on campus is. I've considered moving in with Tom for safety, but his parents have asked us to stop being intimate until marriage, and I don't think they would approve of us living together. That said, they have been incredibly kind. They paid for my hotel stay. Tom was nervous about me staying at my brother's friend's apartment. I was mostly afraid of the roaches. They're texting me as I write this, sending florist options and talking excitedly about our wedding. Overall, I am okay, but I'm terrified of the unknown. How Tom's doing, he's very anxious being away from me and incredibly grateful to my brother. He wants me to block my mother's number, but I'm not ready. He encouraged me to make an appointment with my therapist, and we're hoping to attend a few sessions together. He has apologized endlessly and feels like he should have figured this out sooner, but it's not his fault. If we had known earlier, we might never have had the love we now share, and I believe that love is worth it. This morning, his father warned him not to share the secret with anyone. Tom is nervous how our grandparents would react if they found out. If anything else happens, I'll update again. We're still reading the comments. The encouragement, especially from those who urged us to tell our parents, gave us the strength to do the right thing. Even though I regret telling my mother, I think it was better than lying and creating a long-term deception. Thank you all for the support. Feel free to ask any questions. It genuinely helps us think through every angle. So where do you even start with something like that? I think, to be fair, I do remember seeing something on social media that kind of like posed that question, where it was like 5 years into your relationship with somebody, you find out that they're actually your first cousin. What do you do? I think it's likely that there's going to be a huge mix of reactions from "I couldn't do it" to "we're already that far deep, why end it now?" I know as recent as like 100 years back, it was actually not that uncommon. And love is love, but where is the limit? Phila1 left a comment saying, "Do one of those DNA tests and see how much DNA you share. My grandparents found out they were third cousins after they got married. Their parents knew as well. Not quite the same, but they made it work." OP replied, "This is good advice, but there's also some blissful ignorance here. Like, at what percentage do we draw the line?" Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories of Redditors getting something off their chest, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? Our next story is, I helped a lady at the gym gain confidence, and it resulted in her getting a divorce. So over the past few months, I've been doing a specific Pilates class 3 times a week. In this class, I met a lady who first showed up real timid, kind of shy, and dressed in lots of layers, and almost tried to purposefully stay fully covered. Nothing wrong with this, but in a high-intensity class, that is tough. Over time, I'd gradually say hi to her, work out side by side, and as the weeks went on, I began to learn more about her. Turns out she was a married woman with 3 kids, and her husband was a stay-at-home gamer. He brought in no income and apparently always told her that her clothes were getting tight and that she should consider hitting the gym more often. And I never tried to dig into it, but she vented about it all the time. As time went on, she began to come into class with a smile on her face, she started dressing confidently, and you could just tell that she was starting to find herself, and it was so nice to see. Well, last week, she came in and we did class and all that went well, and afterwards, she said, "Hey, so I did something crazy." And when I asked her what she did, she said, "I finally decided to leave him, and I wanted to thank you for helping me find myself again and being kind to me. It helped me learn my worth and gave me the courage to stand up for myself and take care of me for a change. And I honestly didn't realize I made such an impact, which on one side is beautiful, but on the other, I feel like I caused a divorce. But at the same time, it's more so her husband that caused the divorce. I just like to think I helped someone understand their true worth." Here's the thing, it's not like OP was in that Pilates class right next to them like, "Hey, divorce him, divorce him." You know, at the end of every exercise saying, "Wow, you killed that routine, divorce your husband." OP knows that at least secondhand, that guy sounded like not a great partner. What's there to get hung up on? Iron Seguin left a comment saying, "You didn't cause the divorce, dude. The husband did." Imagine being a stay-at-home gamer bringing in no income while your wife works her butt off to raise you, the gamer, the kids, and has to work to pay the bills, and then still having the audacity to tell her, "Your clothes are too tight." She just needed to hear someone be nice to her after all that time, and I guarantee it was a while with those comments. Our next story is, I ran into my school bully and realized I never got my happy ending. I was in line at a random grocery store after work, half zoned out, staring at the stupid gum display, when I heard my old last name said out loud. Not in my current life voice either, but that old sing-song way kids used to do it when they were about to be mean. I turned, and there he was. Same guy who made middle school feel like a daily humiliation ritual. He used to call me Ghost because I was pale and quiet. He would kick my backpack down the stairs. And once, he dumped my binder in a trash can and told everyone I smelled like wet paper. I remember laughing along because it was either that or cry and become even more of a target. I've replayed those scenes in my head for years. Like, if I review them enough, I can edit them into something less pathetic. He looked genuinely happy to see me. Like, bright smile, eyebrows up, casual, "Oh my god, hey, it's been forever." He said my name correctly, which almost felt worse, and asked where I'd been. I mumbled something about moving away for college and coming back, and he nodded like we were old classmates who just lost touch. Then he did the thing people do when they're trying to prove they're normal now. He asked about my family. He said he remembered I was really good at art. He even made a joke about how our town never changes. I could smell his laundry detergent or cologne or whatever, and it made my stomach flip because it was so clean and adult and it didn't match the kid in my head. At some point, he said very casually, I was such a jerk back then. Sorry if I ever gave you a hard time. Not a big apology, not specific, just tossed out like a pebble into a pond. And I waited for my moment. The movie scene where I finally feel powerful or at least relieved. I waited for anger, satisfaction, tears, anything. Instead, I felt this blank, dumb heaviness like my brain just shut a door. I smiled because my body knows how to be polite even when I'm freaking out, and I said, "Yeah, it was a while ago." That's it. That was my big line. He paid for his stuff, patted my shoulder like we were buddies, and walked out. I sat in my car after and just stared at the steering wheel until my hands stopped shaking. I hated myself for being nice. I hated myself for not saying the truth. I also hated myself for still caring, because he clearly doesn't. He gets to be a normal adult who apologizes in one sentence and then goes home and sleeps. I get to carry around a whole closet full of old shame that still fits me. I always pictured closure as this clean snap, like a thread breaking. Turns out it's more like realizing the thread is wrapped around your ribs and you've been breathing around it for years. I drove home with groceries I didn't even remember buying, and I couldn't stop thinking, if this is what winning looks like, it kinda sucks. I will say, based off of how he reacted and his demeanor, that he probably did have some form of remorse or regret. I think, in a way, it's nice that they even tried to do something, but understandably, whatever he could do isn't going to solve the way OP feels. And honestly, I don't think no matter what OP said to that guy in that moment, it would have ever resolved things. I think OP just needs to learn how to unravel that thread themselves. Forsaken Couple left a comment saying, "I suspected the reason he approached you was to apologize. I genuinely believe that this was his best effort at that. Most bullies do not feel good about what they did as they become adults." Sneaky Lesbian replied, "So many people do not know how to say sorry and actually mean it." Pure Ad replied, "I see you've met my wife, who thinks, 'I'm sorry you feel that way' is an apology." Our next story is, I was accidentally in a family's private WhatsApp group for like 7 months and somehow became emotionally invested. So like last year, I randomly get added to a WhatsApp group from an unknown number. I didn't care much about it at first, since getting added to a group you have no idea about is not something extraordinary. It was a group called Smith Family Chat, with like 14 people in it. I assume it's spam, about to leave, then I notice it's just normal people. Grandma profile pic, uncle with sunglasses, someone named Maria Kitchen. It was a family group, and I was now technically part of someone's bloodline. It wasn't crazy dramatic, that's the part that kinda stuck with me. It was normal. Hospital visits, birthdays, someone's kid failing math, someone complaining about rent, granny sending those good morning pictures that looked like they were made in 2004. Nothing viral worthy, just people existing. And for some reason, I kept checking it. Not constantly, but like once in a while when I was bored. At first, I was gonna leave instantly, but I don't know, curiosity won. I just thought, I wanna see how long it takes for them to notice. It takes months. I watched full family drama unfold like a weird Netflix show I didn't ask for. Cousin failing classes, aunt beefing with uncle about a dog, someone got hospitalized, everyone panicked and then she was fine. Birthdays, good mornings, those motivational images with glitter text. I knew so much about strangers I legally should not know. The creepiest part was that they kept tagging me like I was someone. They would be like, "You bringing chairs?" And I would stare at my phone like, "Bro, I do not know any of you, I cannot bring chairs." One time they were arguing about what color to paint a room, and I swear to God someone wrote, "Ask him, he's usually right about this stuff." About me, a random dude. I was suddenly promoted to family consultant in a household I don't live in. I never said a word the entire time. Total ghost, just watched. Which sounds creepy, but I don't know, it didn't feel like spying. More like falling into a parallel universe by accident and refusing to leave because it's interesting. And the funniest, weirdest part is literally nobody ever questioned it, like, at all. Months went by, and nobody went, "Hey, why is he never replying?" or "Is he even reading this?" Nothing. If they really thought I was a part of the family, you'd expect at least one person to poke me like, "Bro, you alive?" But nope. And that kind of messed with me. Like they either barely talked to that actual person in real life anyway, or they just collectively decided, he's quiet, whatever. Which is somehow sadder. I kept thinking about the real guy whose spot I accidentally stole. Does he know he's supposed to be in here? Does he know that they're planning stuff without him? Does he feel left out? I honestly felt guilty sometimes, like I kidnapped a spot in someone's family without meaning to, but I kept going because I enjoyed listening to a bunch of strangers talking about their daily life. 7-ish months pass. I know because the media auto-download nearly killed my storage, and then one day someone finally asks, "Wait, who is this number?" Then like 6 messages of, "Who? Who added?" I panic, apologize, say wrong number, and immediately got removed. That's it. Over. And weirdly, I still think about them sometimes. I'll just remember like, oh yeah, Maria finally got that job. And I then realize I will never know what happened to any of them ever again. They felt more real than half the internet because nothing insane happened, just life. I don't know why that messed with my brain a bit. Maybe because sometimes you meet people, don't really meet them, and then they disappear forever and that's normal. But it feels strange anyway. I don't know if it's weird and I don't know if I'm the only one that would, but does it feel like to anybody else something you would also do? I don't know if I'm just way too nosy as a person, but if I got added to a family group chat like that, I might scroll through it just to see what's there for fun. To me, it would be like, I'm not harming anybody, and it's like prime boredom material just to see what's there. I do remember though, one time, my mom kept showing me this group and she kept getting added to this family group text chat and she was like, how do I get removed from it? And in the group chat, there was a picture of an old guy sitting in a hospital bed every so often, and a text would come in with it that says like, Uncle Tommy is feeling better, and there'd be multiple people saying yay or congratulations or good, and my mom would look at me and be like, how do I leave this? Why am I in this group chat? So I would leave it for her, and they kept adding her back to the group chat. Eventually, after leaving it like 3 times, they finally gave up. Our next story is, I think my kid's school lied about calling CPS rather than calling my husband to pick her up. Our daughter, 7, started school last month. I told the front office under no circumstances should they call me if something happens to her, especially Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. I work, and I'm not allowed to have my phone on my person while working. They were told to explicitly call her father, who works overnight but is home all day as a result. I get to my lunch break today, and what do I find but 16 missed calls from the school? I assume she's been hospitalized or there's been an active shooter, something horrible that warrants 16 calls to the parent they were told not to call. I call the school frantically before even looking at my voicemail and find that they called me because she threw up. Threw up. Blood? Nope. Regular throw up. But because I didn't answer, this woman considered it abandonment and made a call to CPS. I asked if they had called my husband. Nope, just me. And I didn't answer, which isn't allowed. I called him and he went to pick her up. There was a woman sitting with her in the nurse's office who was also there during orientation night, but she wasn't our kid's teacher or administration, so we didn't get introduced to her. As soon as my husband got there, she scurried off, and when he asked the woman at the front desk who she was, she reiterated that she had called someone about your wife abandoning your daughter, and told him if it happened again, it would be a lot more serious and we should consider making sure mom's always there when her kid needs her. There is no freaking way that a CPS agent is just hanging around this school at all times and didn't bother to stick around to lecture a parent who abandoned their kid when they showed up. I think they lied because they don't like that dad is supposed to be their primary point of contact. I'm going to follow up with the principal when I've calmed down, of course, but what the actual freak. OP then went on to post an update. I think my kid's school lied about calling CPS rather than calling my husband to pick her up. Hi everyone, to answer the most common questions, The school had documentation to call my husband or his mother ever since we enrolled there. I double-checked our computer portal with the school website and it's still listed that way, including that I can't be contacted for anything that might be time-sensitive. I cannot have my phone on my person while I'm working, period. My workplace is an automatic answering machine for public calls, so even if the school did call them, I wouldn't get the message for probably another half hour at absolute best. Even then, I work about 30 to 40 minutes away if traffic is good. Yes, I'm in a more traditional area, although it's never been too huge of a deal before besides having to commute to the city for work. This is not going to be the super dramatic update I'm sure a lot of people were hoping for. Sorry. First off, I didn't jump straight to getting an attorney to threaten them. I did call and ask a local family law firm, and the person I spoke to told me that if we did have to go as far as suing, it would look better to try to exhaust options on my own before threatening legal action. But they would be happy to look over any communications between us, and we could CC them on any emails, and asked me to get any information on the potential neglect or abandonment case I could while they looked into it as well. I started by sending a follow-up email to the principal and CC'd the superintendent and law person on it asking for the confirmation that they had checked our file for who to call, more details on who exactly was spoken to at CPS, any case numbers, and the name of the person who was sitting alone with my sick daughter and did not speak to my husband or identify themselves. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, the principal was out of town for several days with some family emergency. After a day with no reply, the superintendent emailed me directly asking for more details, and I sent them an email outlining exactly what had happened from our perspective, screenshots from my phone, my husband's phone, and his mother's phone showing the phone calls and the lack of them. Monday, the principal finally got back to us and we got some answers. The woman sitting with our daughter was one of the school counselors, just not the one assigned to her. No one actually contacted CPS. There is no open case against us. That was just a straight-up lie. The woman who told me she had actually called the school's social worker, not CPS, who then sent the counselor to sit with her, instead of, telling her that was ridiculous or going himself. The counselor claims that she was under the impression that she was just keeping our daughter company until the parents arrived, since there was no nurse that day, but if that was the case, she should have at least said hello, right? And I'm not sure if he was supposed to tell me this, but apparently this is not the first time they've had issues with how she responds to fathers or male caregivers in general. Which, I want to know, if that's the case, why didn't anyone do anything about it before? What the freak? As of now, she's been suspended pending investigation. Obviously, these aren't all the details, but this is the gist of it. I'm sure a lot of people were hoping to hear I'd sued the school for defamation, harassment, threatening, whatever else, and gotten that stupid woman fired for being a misogynistic jerk. But this is what we've got. To be fair, I don't think a lot of people truly go nuclear like that all too often. I don't necessarily think I'm wrong in saying that what happened here is pretty decent. That being said, let me be the first person to say pending investigation is utter bull you-know-what. She should be fired and should have been long since fired before OP even had to deal with her. I understand she may have her own issues and that affects how she acts with male caregivers, but that just means that she's not fit to work with these kids, at least not in that role. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy story of someone getting something off their chest, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.